Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Queen Konging with the Queen Kong. It is yet another episode of our podcast, and I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you for the continued support. Thank you for reaching out on the platforms on Instagram at The Queen Konging, on Twitter at The Queen Kong, and Facebook as well. Thank you so much for the support and for the feedback. I really enjoy hearing from you. This week, we're going to talk about one of my old friends. And this is going to be a long story, but I hope you listen in till the very end. It's a very interesting one as well. It's one of the stories that actually made me venture into film. When I was new in film, I kept wondering, why am I coming to do this thing, And one of the reasons that I felt I really needed to do film was so that I can be able to tell the stories of the people that I know, the people that I grew up with, the people that I had grown to love, and the people who had, made my years, who had made my childhood, I feel like I grew up with very diverse individuals, and it is only right that being the storyteller among them to tell their stories. And so today is about Lakers, and there are many things that you'd notice about Lakers when you see him, and you'll notice the scars. He doesn't have an exactly friendly face. He has, he's those people you look and he looks like, you bigger, one of those ones. But yeah, you'll notice that. You'll notice he has this intimidating face. Like ukimcheki jo, unaingizia. Unajua kuna machali unacheki unaingizia. Like, anaka kukuswitch mbaya, but it really doesn't reflect the type of person that Lakers is. Lakers is such a nice guy. I've known him all my life, and the name Lakers, he's the one who gave me actually that name. There's this, when I was growing up, there's this Lakers jersey, a yellow one with a purple neck that I used to wear all the time. And he used to see me with it a lot, so he would enjoy me, like, anani enjoy ananiambia, hey. So he started calling me Lakers because I used to love wearing that vest. My dad had given it to me, so I really loved that vest. So akaanza kunita Lakers, so tukaanza kuitana Lakers. So alikuwa Lakers 1 na kulikuwa na Lakers 2. One day on this same podcast, you'll get to meet Lakers 2. And so yeah, I used to call him Lakers, and he was so cool, and we grew up together. Primary school. So when we were in high school, one of the earliest memories of us in high school, I remember I went to a function. He was in a high school that was around our area in Kariobangi, and I was in Buru. So we went for a school function in Jammu actually, and I remember meeting him there. And at that time, I think I was in Form 3, and I was having such a huge problem in school, mainly because I felt like I was being attacked by people, but I couldn't defend myself because my mom was, alikuwa ameniacha Umauru Bangu, sipeleke Kariobangi uko, like, go just read. And so when I saw him, I remember thinking of all the people who wronged me in school and thinking, you guys, unajua venye unaweza patilisha wase umbwa saa. And that's not how he would, deal with them the way they're supposed to be dealt with, yeah? So, like, he was a good friend of mine. So even meeting him at a funky was such an elation for me. Like, I was so happy. I was so excited. I'm like, yeah. We meet at home, but it's not often that you meet someone in a funky. And then, like, his family, he was from a good family. There were very many in their family. But that's one of the things that I remember. But he had this uncle. Like, their family there were such characters. He had this uncle who would get so drunk and then come and buy sweets for all the I don't know, unajonga wase anakuja kama amelewa anabaya watu wote sweet kwa duka. He had one of those uncles, and like just his whole family was some sort of characters. Everyone had a certain character that you would always remember him about in the family. But I don't know where he lost his step. Okay, I think I do. So in the whole family, he was like the last born. He was a small boy in the entire family. So I feel like sort of everyone had gotten all the guidance, and then sort of everyone was expected to be his parent, and no one really was. So he easily just got into being naughty, and no one would ask him much. And he got away with stuff. He just got away with stuff. And that started building up his naughtiness from when he was very little. So he was very kichwangumu in school. He'd fight a lot. Even in the estate, he was those people who were always in fights. Unajua like wala wasitu ngori ikitokea yako kwa hiyo ngori somehow. But like that didn't change him from being a good person. You know what I mean? So he went on like that. And he was telling me the other day that he started crying when he was very little, like when he was in high school. He'd already learned how to pinji. Kupinji ni to pickpocket. Like he'd learned how to pinji back then. Like he'd pinji guys. And so he started there. He started living in a life of crime. So he started kupinji watu. And it's not necessarily out of lack. It's just lack of knowledge, you know. It's not lack of support from family or finances. It was like kuna kitu tunaitanga ugeto. Like you want to be, you know, in kwa ghetto, for you to be the person in the ghetto, it comes in a different way. Like you're not seafood for being the best in your class. You know, the praise and the honor and sort of the pride of the ghetto is who's the baddest, you know. So I think that's one of the things that has always driven many young people in the ghetto. And to be honest, I think that's what drove Lakers. He wanted to be the baddest. You want to fit in. You want to look like when Williams say, unajua, it's how people roll in the ghetto. And so he started being the baddest. He started pinching people when he was in high school. So it goes on like this. And I remember one conversation I had with him, Lakers 1 and Lakers 2. They both came. My mom has a shop and I was at the shop. So my mom would leave us over the holidays, would have shop responsibilities. So unabaki kwa duka and she goes to her stores. So Lakers 1 and Lakers 2 on this day find me at the shop. And we're having a conversation and they tell me, Maze, mbono unasoma? You know, they ask me, mbono unasoma? I'm like, hey, mi nataka kupata maweng, nataka kupata do, yani nataka tu kujiestablish, nataka kusoma nisonge mbele na life. And they tell me, cheki wale wase wote wa imta yenye unajua amesoma, wameenda wapi? And then they start giving me examples. So you can imagine. So you're told, cheki Mary, amefika wapi na alisoma amemaliza form 4. Cheki fulani, amesoma amemaliza form 4 ameenda wapi? Enye ukweli nikaanza kuona enye hapa kuna point mazi. Pia mimi nafaa kuacha shule. And like it really made sense. So they're like, you know what? Si tumefikiria tukona. Wacha tuache chuo. We get a head start in this hustle. So by the time nyinyi mnamaliza chuo, mnakam kutujoin kwa hustle. Si tutakuwa tumesonga. And it made so much sense. You know, like all these people have finished high school and they don't seem to be going anywhere. They just seem to be struggling in the hood. We might as well just stop going to school and just start struggling so that by the time people are finishing, would have a head start on the struggle. And it's so sad that actually made sense at that time. But this Lakers and Lakers 2 actually stopped going to school. They quit school and I couldn't quit school because my mom would have killed me. My dad would have beheaded me. And so like that was not an option for me. But this guy actually quit school. And I was having this conversation with Lakers and he's telling me that's when shit got real, because you've quit school, you're thinking that you're getting a head start in this hustle, and then you realize you have no skills and you still want to be bad. You know, you want to be, but unataka kuole mse kwa mtaa. So guess what you do? The only way kuole mse kwa mtaa with no skills, because lazima ungare, you know, that's part of the thing of the hood. Like, you have to look good, you have to smell nice so that you can fit in. And so that you can be someone in that society and to your peers at that time, you know, and like the people who you're aspiring to be, who you look up to in the hood, like the role models of the hood. You know, J. Cole once sang and said there's no role models, you know. In those hoods, the role models are the thieves and all those people. So you have to look like them, you have to dress like them. And so my boy started stealing, and it's just funny because the way he names it, it's just a funny thing. Like, you know, there's a way that you can normalize something until it starts sounding good to you. You know, they give it fancy names, kwenda around. When you hear kwenda around, you're not thinking this person is going to steal, wameanza kushughulika. Unajua tulikuwa tumeenda kushughulika, so you're wondering kushughulika ni kumeenda kushughulika aje. You think it's something nice. At the end of the day, it's stealing, And so when he quit school and started being in the hood, that's when he started stealing now, really stealing. And he really became part of a gang. And I want to stop here for now, for this week. Tune in next week to hear part 2 of Leka's story. Thank you so much for keeping on, for listening to Queen Konging. May you keep it here, keep it locked. Tell a friend to tell a friend that the Queen Konging is the place to be. What's up, good people? Welcome back to Queen Konging. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with yet another episode. Have you listened to part 1 of this segment, manzi? Kama haujasikiza, ebu wacha, pause, go back, listen to part 1, where I tell you who Lekas 001 is. And then now this is part 2. I know I left you guys hanging. I know a week is quite a long period of time to wait, but yes, we gotta do what we gotta do. And also, I don't want to give you a long episodes in up at 3 hours. Do short and sweet, bana. Short and sweet. So I think I left off at where Lekas has now become a thief. And alianza kupiga round. Na kupiga round is, he was telling me he was always afraid of guns. I don't know. It's so funny. You're a thief, you're afraid of guns. It's kind of paradoxical. But telling me he was always afraid of guns. Like, guns were just not his thing. So he would actually steal with a knife. He's those people who'd stab you. But then you see, most of the time, when someone comes at you with any silaha and asks you of your belongings, you won't necessarily start to fight him back. You'll just be like, hey, whatever, just take whatever you need and go. And so he told me he started going to round, and kuna round design mob. One of the things I really never liked about it is that alikuwa anapiga round mtaa. Like, he would steal from guys around the area. So he'd be like just not far from where we live, And it was a bit sad because there are so many stories I've heard about it. Like, there's a pal of ours who sells clothes, and he's very famous, Managalis. And Managalis was telling me that he was Lakers actually borrowed him his phone, and then unaweza kwa mtu unajua, si unajua ni msi unajua umekuwa ukimuona, akwambia incident simu nipigie mtu. And imagine just that, like that, Lakers went away with the phone, akahepa nayo. Na I'm sure hakuna kitu naweza nduia, yani imeenda hivyo venye imeenda. So like, this is one of the things that I kept telling Lakers, maze bana. Even when I was having this conversation with him, I'm just like, why did you do that? And he's like, he just didn't know better. He's telling me he doesn't know better. He thought like he had to conquer. There's a thing about being a thief and conquering your area. Like, people have to be afraid of you, And so he would steal from around, and then he'd go to town and steal in town. The phone snatchers, the petty thieves. Like, he was always that guy. And, it was getting the money. They started dressing up, nini. Amenza kwa mse wa look, kuna mchekingi. But he was telling me as he went on, it's like he got more guts. So he would do more. When you're starting, you're just a pickpocket. And then the next unanyonga msi, the next unachukua kisu. So like, it was just a progression. And he was telling me there were a gang of so many guys, at least 25 guys in their gang. And they would, steal from guys, go to town together. Sometimes they just, be within the area and steal from around. Kwanza kuna place hapo initangwa grau hapo holi sa kama when wezo area unajua holi kuna kwagana, it's like a huge football ground, and then like you have to pass through it when you're coming from one side of the hood to the other. So like they would station themselves there, so people who are passing by there would be their culprits. Wow. So my boy starts stealing, and they're now stealing with a knife after a few years. And so he tells me that there's this one guy who was a thief like them. So they'd go steal together. So they were they especially hapo Holi, they'd be together, they'd still together. So normally when you're together, like you're maybe 3 or 4 guys and you're stealing there, so mna hustle msee kama meiba simu, mtu mmoja anachukua naenda anauza, then mnagawana do. So that's what usually used to happen. So the first time they were with this guy and another guy, so they go and they find someone who had a laptop and they take it from them. Then this one person, let's call him Dax decides I'll take the laptop and I'll go sell it. But Dax doesn't bring back the money. You see? So that's where the problem started. Then the second time, so this guy never followed up. So they asked him the first time, he didn't, give them the money. The second time they're like, maybe he was in a bad place, he needed the money, it's fine. So the second time they go and they get a phone. And he tells me this second time he remembers the exact phone they stole. It was a Sony Ericsson. It had some luminous colors on the keypad. And when they stole it, the guy, the same Dax, still says, I'll go sell and bring back the proceeds. But he goes and he never returns the proceeds. So unaona imekuwa nikani deni. Dax alikam amechukua mali mara mbili na hajakuwa kiturudishia mawengu. Unacheki? Haya. So it goes like that. This guy never returns. So one day he goes, meets that guy akiwa area yake. So unajua kuna ma area, like it's like the hood is divided in a way. So you come from this side, me I come from this side. I can never chokoza you when I'm on your hood, on your side of the hood. You can never chokoza me when you're on my side of the hood. But there are some playgrounds. There are like middle grounds. I know it sounds like some US mafia story, but it is what it is, yeah. So he meets Dax. So Lakers meets Dax in his hood. Brother niaje, hujanigawia maweng. Ati, mi sina do. Ukiwa area yako unaringa. Mi sina maweng. So wengoja tu nikipata ndakwambia. Lakini hata mimi nimekaa mbaya. So it became like a confrontation. But you see, they were Lakers 1 was Lakers 2. So Lakers 2 akamwambia hapa tukianza kuvuruga tutaumia. So tuende, tutakuja tukupata na area yetu. So when Lakers goes back to his gang, it turns out Dax has stabbed 2 guys in his gang. None of them has died, but he stabbed them all the same. So the beef is building up. Number 1, this guy never returned our money. Number 2, he stabbed 2 guys in our gang. So it means there's a disrespect. So kuna ile kuchochana, kwani pia unamuogopa na hata hajakulipa doo zako, fuata pesa yako, pia wewe kwani unamuogopa na alikudunga kisu, huyo mtu lazima tumfanye mbaya. So kukakuwa na kuchochana. So one day these guys wamekaa ikakuwa by the way, Lakers umecheki Dax ameenda hivyo kwa shosho yake. Nimecheki ameenda hivyo. Sijamcheki. Ameenda hivyo kwa shosho yake. Na simia alinidunga kisu na wewe alikurusha mawenge. Tukayapa ground tumgoje akirudi. So Dax had a knife. No. I mean Lakers had a knife. And they were with 2 other guys. One of the guys was one who had been stabbed by Dax. Then there was another guy who was totally unrelated. Alikuwa anapiga tu hustle na akona gang yake. So they sit there and they're waiting for Dax to come back. So he passes through this place when he's going to his grandmother's place. So they're seated there and they're waiting for him to come back. Then the one who was stabbed says, Alisa kisu aende akachukue. They have a name for it. I forget, by the way. So this is Shengona level, So ametoa silaha aende achukue silaha yake and then akam. So the one who has been stabbed has gone. Unasikia Lakers has machungu mara mbili. Number 1, boy wangu amestabiwa. Number 2, kuna doni lirushwa. So uko na machungu mara mbili na umsi. So wamekaa hapo wanamtegea. Mwenye alidungwa kisu akarudi kwenda kuchukua kisu yake. So Lakers amebaki peke yake na uchali mwingine na wanangojea Dax. Then the other one is away, they see Dax approaching. So Lakers akam, Lakers ndule Dax anakam. So mimi simwache, acha niende nimchapie. Yani let's go talk. So akaenda akamwambia Dax, si tumalizane, tuache kushinda tukivurutana, wewe tumalizane. So it started being like a confrontation. And you see now Grau is Lakers' side of the hood. So like ako area yake. So whatever happens akiwa area yake, nothing bad can happen to him. You see? Like, and it's also like Grau is like middle ground. all the same because it's in the middle of areas our water. So whatever happens there, it stays there. Like no one can report you or anything. So yeah, Lakers anaambia Ducks nipe do. Ati yemi sina pesa sahi lakini tukienda mtaa yetu naweza kupea. So but kwenda mtaa yao means unaenda kufanywa mbaya juu huko kuna watu wao. So it became a confrontation. So according to Lakers, he was telling me his plan was not to harm him. He had a knife, but his plan was not to harm him. His plan was to shtua him to a point where atampea do yake. So akatoa kisu ile kumshtua, unaona. So yeye ana akili ati anataka kumharm, anataka tu kumshtua mpaka apate do yake. And so Lakers remove his knife and he's threatening the guy. So ile kumthreaten Dax removes his hand and Lakers stabbed Dax on the chest and the knife went straight through to the heart. So Dax falls on his knees. He starts to try and crawl, but he doesn't get far. He just falls. Some guys come pick him up. He's taken to his family. He doesn't even get to the hospital. He dies on the way. So having died on the way, that's the end of Dax. So Lakers has actually killed a person. So Lakers realizes he's actually stabbed Dax and runs away for a while. So he tells me he ran for about 6-7 months. He was not being found. The police were not finding him. He was just running for a very long time and he was not being found. He was able to evade police for 6 months. And partly because even the family, I think Wali realized the best way is just to wait it out and then, so he went to coast, he ran for a while, but eventually the police caught up with him and he was arrested. He was arraigned in court. The whole court proceeding took place and he was sentenced to a life in prison. By the time he was being sentenced, he was only 19 years old. That's when he was sentenced to a life in prison. And as we speak, Lakers is in prison for life since when he was 19. I think right now he's 25. Yeah. That's Lakers. He's still my friend. We still talk. I got the details of this conversation and the details of the happenings of what happened. Actually, I think I have larger details, but this is just what I could share. But I got it all from him and even got permission to share this content from him. This is someone I've known, this is someone I still know, this is someone I talk to, and this is their story. I hope it makes you see things differently. Next week, I have yet another one for another friend of mine. And I hope you stay tuned. I hope you tell a friend to tell a friend that this is Queen Konging and it's the place